Hey guys, today I'll be discussing my thoughts on Blizzard's design philosophy behind expansion releases, while taking a look at their history of long final patches. Now, it's pretty obvious that Blizzard isn't the best with releasing timely expansions, but I think everyone had their hopes up that this time around, it would be different. That being said, I also believe that Blizzard needs to ensure that this upcoming expansion is a success, because their subscription count is lower than ever before, and both the PvE and PvP communities are in a constant state of outrage. In this video, I will be talking about my thoughts on the potential release date, as well as how I interpret Blizzard's latest quarterly report. So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Are we going to have a full year of patch 6.2? Even after being told countless times that we will get shorter and more frequent expansions, Blizzard has still failed to deliver. So the answer to the question is yes, and with Blizzard's current model, I believe that we will continue to have these long final patches. See, Blizzard is a company focused on the future, which in and of itself isn't exactly a bad thing, but it is clearly influencing their design philosophy. Blizzard will put out an expansion with the goal of releasing 2 to 3 major patches per expansion, while simultaneously dumping major resources into the next chapter. This makes sense, until you get to the part where you're sitting on one patch for a full year. Did they just stop caring about the current content? At first, I thought they just didn't have the manpower to do both things at once, but after a year of them boasting about how the team is bigger than ever, I've had a really hard time justifying the lack of content. Honestly, I've just come to a grim conclusion about why we keep seeing a drought at the end of expansions, which is that Blizzard focuses their time and efforts on expansion releases rather than current content. They know that people will buy the expansion and will sub for at least 1 month guaranteed so that they can experience the new content. Players come back for patches, but resubbing late in an expansion is a different experience than at the beginning since you have to play catch up. Then there's the added issue of feeling too far behind your friends to play with, even if it's more mental than literal, but look at Warlords. The beginning of the expansion had, 12 million subscribers? The highest Blizzard's ever had in the history of the game, which honestly is a truly amazing feat if you think about it, given the fact that this is an outdated MMO with a subscription model. Fast forward a year and a half and you're at an all-time low, which isn't really confirmed, but if you take into consideration the fact that the last earnings call had numbers at about 5 million, and there still hasn't been any new content since then, I would estimate the current subscription count to be around 2.5 to 3 million. And I know I kind of derailed there, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that Blizzard clearly sees a bigger opportunity in the beginning of expansions to make cash than at the end. I mean, this is pretty obvious I think, but at the same time, I think people really underestimate how important this is for a company like Blizzard. They aren't dumb and they've been in business for long enough to understand the best ways to make cash. So let's use an example here and look at the average player returning to World of Warcraft for Legion or any new expansion. Chances are this player will need 2 months of time to get through the bulk of launch content between dailies, rep grinds, leveling up alts, etc. But for the sake of an example, let's assume that they only resub for the first month. This means that the player will spend $50 for the expansion, and then another $15 on top of that for the first month, at a minimum. This is $65 before tax that a player will spend on average for their return to the game. $65 is roughly the price of most console games nowadays, and consoles usually have DLC content updates which can range anywhere from $5 to $15. If you equate console DLC to patch updates in WoW, bear with me, players are paying $15 a month for content updates they're not getting, which is where the problem lies. Let's look at it this way. If $15 is the average price for one DLC package on a console, then theoretically we should be getting new content every month, assuming you agree with my conversion. This is an online subscription MMO. You can release small content updates every month and not break the bank because you have consistent money. World of Warcraft is a live game, and most definitely part of a genre where monthly content can easily be created. This isn't a console game that has a set ending and you expand the story through DLCs, that's another story. Another thought to consider would be that if we spend 1 year on patch 6.2, that means you spend 12 months paying $15 a month for one package of DLC content, which is $180. This begs the question, are we getting $180 worth of content in the major patches? Personally, I don't think we are, especially when the amount of content is barely enough for at least 6 months of each patch. To be honest, I know there's going to be people who disagree, and I'll be the first to admit that this is kind of a stretch to make this kind of comparison since there is a crossover between genres, but I think the point still stands that DLC is a commonplace thing nowadays in the gaming community, and there's really no excuse to not be providing quality content. Nintendo, in my opinion, is the only company I see doing DLC the right way, which is creating content after a game is already finished and on the shelf, not before it was shipped. They create content while players are still enjoying the game, and they actually keep teams on the project post-launch. They interacted with players in games like Super Smash Bros., where they had several surveys asking the community what fighters they wanted to see in the game. and Nintendo actually created the winners of the ballots from scratch at an affordable rate. Seeing the way I interpret the MMO genre, I'd like to think that any MMO company has a team working on their current live game. So why is it taking so long for new content updates for WoW? I hate to play conspiracist, but as of right now, my opinion is that Blizzard has realized that they really need to just make the bulk of their money at the start of an expansion, and create just enough content to keep people resubbing for a couple months at a time. I don't think their goal is to actually keep people subbed the entire expansion. I think with the amount of free-to-play games out there, the fact that Steam has a huge market, and now the PC gaming world is saturated with quality games, Blizzard has realized that they don't have the same grasp that they had even just 2 or 3 years ago. They know that people won't stick around 100% of the time, and that's okay, but they are stuck on the idea that quality is better than quantity, and would rather put out spaced batches of content and have people return and leave in bulk rather than try and battle a steady consumer. The reason we're seeing these drastic changes now is because 10 years ago, the market was completely different. What worked back then will not last very long in today's day and age. I could get into why each and every failed MMO just crumbled shortly after release, but that isn't the point of this video. To be honest, WoW isn't even dying. I'm no analyst, but I feel like the game will truly never die, as long as there is content being created for it. Even the most upset fans will come back to a new expansion with hope, even if it's just for a few months at a time. But that's all Blizzard really needs to keep a game like WoW afloat, a dedicated fanbase and $65 from millions of players. You'll have the ones that do stick around and pay for the server fees, but I don't think Blizzard is concerned with the declining subscription numbers near the end of an expansion. For now, this is my take on the situation at hand regarding expansion releases and the drought that is Warlords of Draenor. Do I think things will pick up soon? To be honest, no, not really. If anything, we may see some new content after the movie releases June 3rd, such as a pre-patch event for Legion. If I had to throw a rough estimate as to when I expect Legion to launch, I would probably say late August, early September. Seeing that we're still in alpha, people are upset with their classes, and we actually haven't tested anything at max level, I think it would be safe to assume that we're getting a late summer release. And until then, Blizzard probably won't be seeing a resub from me. Thanks for listening, and please leave a comment below letting me know what you think of my theory on Blizzard's stance of dropping expansions, whether you agree or not. I do enjoy constructive criticism, and please let me know what you think about this new format of videos. So until next time, peace out.